A very good evening, welcome again. Thursday evening is Talking Sheffield from Sheffield Live TV. It's all talking sport. We've got at least a couple of sports to talk in detail about tonight, inevitably football. We also have the focus on golf and the success quite recently and spectacularly of Sheffield's Danny Willett. Here in the studio to talk about that, and he was booked some weeks ago before all the Wembley hysteria that we of course will cover on the programme, is the Secretary of Sheffield Union of Golf Clubs, Graham Needham, who knows Danny Willett just about as well as anybody. But of course we also take in big day at Wembley on Saturday. Views on that from Jon Newsome, formerly of Sheffield Wednesday, and from Chris Holt, a senior journalist at the Sheffield Star, who's looking remarkably fit and fresh, considering the kind of ringer that he and his colleagues have been through in the past few days, and will continue to be put through in the next few days. Plus, Chris, you've got a handle on Sheffield United as well, because you certainly saw more of them last season than I did. And let's not forget the Blades, because it's been an eventful week down there as well, with 10 players released and 7 transfer listed.
Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks everywhere, all over Sheffield. It's all going off, and Chris Wilder's come in and stamped his authority pretty quickly there.
He certainly has. You couldn't do it more dramatically than releasing 10 and listing 7. What say you, Jon Newsome, from the outside on that?
Well, he's obviously come in and he's got his own ideas, hasn't he? He's probably seen some videos, and you know, I know Chris, and he's he's a Blade as well, so he'll have followed their results and performances this season, and I suppose he wants to come in and make have a clean slate, really.
We'll look at the specifics of that, those he's released, and discuss those and see what you think. And also that remarkable situation involving Dean Hammond as well. We'll analyse that, where he's a player that's exercised an option for an extra year's contract, but the new manager doesn't want him, so he straight away made him available, which is quite remarkable, really. Do you know, a first situation of its type that I can recall anywhere? Can you think of one?
I can't think of one, certainly given Dean's popularity or otherwise. I think it's been amplified a little bit.
Yes, it certainly has. We'll ask Chris where he thinks how this can and will be resolved. Before we come on to the football, though, let me introduce Graham Needham, Sheffield Union of Golf Clubs Secretary. I think you've got more golf clubs within that union than anywhere else in the country.
Yeah,
is that right?
We have 41 clubs in the Sheffield Union. That's bigger than probably most of the other unions in Yorkshire, adding them up together, and we have 41. Hence the success Sheffield have had over the many years of bringing players up through the ranks and on out to play for Sheffield, Yorkshire, England, and so on.
Well, it's an outstanding time, isn't it, for Sheffield?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Matt Fitzpatrick was already established there. Danny Willett was too, but was out of the consciousness of maybe non-golfing people until quite recently in April, when he won the Masters, the first European to win in Augusta in 17 years, and only the second Englishman to do it. Did it surprise you?
I think we were pleasantly surprised, yes, but not unexpected the way he's been going into with his form. He has been sort of playing very steadily, and the turn of the year he was still playing very well, and going into it he was playing well. And I think confidence was quite high with him. Hence was shown. When he had the chance, he took it with both hands, and history is there to show it. I mean, he was in the right place at the right time.
So we've had one big winner already this year in Danny Willett. We hope for another big winner at Wembley on Saturday with Sheffield Wednesday. But Jon Newsome, before we come to that, I think you were quids in on Danny Willett, weren't you?
Yeah, I had a little bit on him. Not a lot of money, but yeah, he came to the fore, and fabulous winner. And there was quite a few people in Sheffield who got a few quid on him.
I did too.
Did you? Yeah. What odds did you get?
I can't remember. I got it. I tend to put a couple of quid on Matt and Danny each way, just for a bit of interest, and the odd time Graham McDowell as well for a bit of home interest. But myself and my colleague Liam Horan both had. Fortunately for him, he bet with a different company than I, and they were offering more places. So I didn't get the Matt each way, but Liam did.
Yeah, excellent. What kind of a guy is he? I've never met him. Love to meet him. He's too busy and he's never in Sheffield, so we probably could rule him out from this programme. But if he ever wants to come on, we'd be delighted to see him.
Matt, well, to say he's just a laid-back, ordinary guy. When you talk to him, he's just a normal guy. He likes playing golf. He likes interacting with other players at the club. I know he goes out quite often at Rotherham. We see him out on the course at Rotherham when he's not away on the tour. He's out there playing. He's just now moved obviously down to Lindrick. He got a new home down there, which he moved into in November. So he'll probably be paying a little bit more at Lindrick, the travelling and all the rest of it. But no, he's just a lovely guy, lovely family man, a great team man. If you ever want to tell you, it's always the team. It isn't him that's doing it. It's the group. It's them. It's all of them, part and parcel of Danny's success. And he's just a genuine nice guy.
But his world has to have changed dramatically.
I don't know how much it's going to change. I mean, it's probably come to him and it's happened, and I think he's going to get used to it. I think it'll change probably in the next 2 or 3 months. At the moment, he's still in the bubble, I'm sure. Everywhere he goes, he's Mr. Masters, and he will be for a long time to come. When he goes to America, they want interviews. In the UK, they want interviews. So he's just going to be full of that for right up till next year when he got to hand the green jacket back into the lock, sort of thing.
Is there any sign of this changing him?
I don't think so. I met him a fortnight ago when he came to Rotherham, and he was the same Danny. He had the family with him, his young baby with him, his wife, the mother-in-law there, and that's what he's like. He's just laid back.
That's refreshing, isn't it, John? Because you must have seen in dressing rooms, and you don't have to mention names, you must have seen people who've changed as a result of scoring big goals or suddenly being projected in the media.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the thing about Danny is that he was, before winning the Masters, which obviously has catapulted him to sort of like worldwide stardom. He was a very, very good golfer. He was working his way up through the world rankings. I think he was in the top 15 or top 20 of the world rankings as well. So, he's done really well over the last few years, really. But like you say, when you win a major tournament like the Masters, it really throws you to the fore.
Yeah, what's that going to do to Matt Fitzpatrick or has done? Because he was there on a pedestal, certainly as far as we're concerned, round here. And I think if you'd asked the public who's going to win a major, his would have been the name first up. So is that going to be an extra incentive, motivation?
I would have thought so. When he started, he got his success, I think, quicker than Danny. He got his first win quicker than Danny got them. I think he moved up the rankings pretty quickly as well, because he's now 44th, 45th in the world. He's just a very good golfer, but again, it's all happening so quick, and I think he's in the prominence now. He's in the highlight because one Sheffield man is that he's another Sheffield man, and they're all talking one against the other. I mean, they got on the television, they're talking, well, he's another Sheffield lad coming forward, following in Danny's footsteps. But to be fair, he's his own man, a very different personality altogether. He's always walking with a smile on his face. I've never known Matt without a smile on his face. And again, I think he will become equally as good as Matt, and I'm pretty certain he will win a major. He is a very, very good accomplished player in his own right. And he got the spur on now, wasn't he? If any incentive is wanted, that's the best incentive.
Absolutely, yeah, terrific. Yeah, and it's just great that we have these two sparking off against each other and what's happening in golf. Talking about people with a perpetual smile on their face, I've seldom seen Carlos Carvalho without one. And you and I were down there today. We had the pleasure of interviewing Barry Bannon and Glenn Louvens and Carlos at some length. And he really is a big character, isn't he? A big personality.
Well, he was even more so today. He was absolutely full of beans today. And he is, again, mentioned infectious earlier, that he's that type of person. You can tell that within the dressing room, people listen to him, they listen to what he has to say, and his enthusiasm, it's engaging, and you want to hear what he has to say, and you want to, and I can imagine the players really take on board what it is he's trying to give to them.
It's entirely natural, not an act. I would say.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's. I think that, like Chris said, the players buy into it, don't they? They've all bought into it, and one of the great elements I think about him is when I've seen Sheffield Wednesday quite a lot this season, really, and I've been at games and, with my own opinion, looked at things and thought, I don't think that's working, and, this is what this is how I'd change it, and he does see things and he does change. He's not scared of changing things, and 9 times out of 10 it comes off and it works. And I think the players can see that because you know yourself when you're playing in a game, if things aren't quite working, if things aren't right, the manager changes it and all of a sudden it clicks for you. Yeah. You will buy into that philosophy, and he's at the helm of a good ship, isn't he, at the moment?
Certainly is. We'll talk about the game itself, Sheffield Wednesday Hull, later, and how you guys think it'll go. But I think he referred to his team and players as a group of brothers today, and he's created that kind of spirit, but also came out with something that surprised us, didn't it? It took us all by surprise when he talked about that contract.
Yeah, well, obviously we all knew he signed a new contract, but nobody really knew how long it was for, and I think part of me felt that because he was used to working on this sort of year-by-year basis for his entire career, I sort of thought to myself, well, maybe he's just signed another year, keeping his own options open, and Mr. Chansiri doing the same thing.
I thought the same.
So it was quite... I must admit I was glad to know that there had that level of responsibility and trust has been placed in him, where the chairman's gone, yeah, I'm happy with what he's done, I'm willing to let him go 3 years. I mean, I know contracts mean very little these days, and he could be sacked tomorrow, and then it wouldn't be a massive surprise in the way football is. But it's nice to see that he's been rewarded for what he's done this season.
It's usually a year. The severance terms, the relevant terms are usually a year, 12 months either way. But it strikes me that whereas we're rather scornful when Sheffield United award a 3-year contract to a manager for obvious reasons, with this it's got real symbolic value, it seems to me, from Mr. Chansiri, and Carlos coming out with it today kind of sort of says, well, don't start making short-term judgments, because you could imagine the situation, lose the game to Hull, and there is a suspicion within us in the media that a manager fails to get promotion, his job is suddenly on the line. That takes that away straight away, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think also he's done such a great job this year. I mean, when he came in at the start of the season, nobody really knew who he was. We looked at his track record. He'd had, plenty of clubs. He'd stayed there for not very long periods of time. There's a big question mark over him, wasn't there, when he first came? And he's answered all those questions, and it's for me, it's his reward. But I think it also just warns off other clubs that, don't come knocking on our door. We're happy with him. We want to keep him. We want to reward him. And whatever happens on Saturday, they've had a fabulous season, and that's his just rewards.
Why should he choose to reveal it though today, when he just dropped it out, didn't he? Why do you think he did that?
We had a bit of a theory in the office that he was perhaps it was tactical on his part, where he thought to himself, if I put the focus on me, then the players can relax and they can get on with their own thing. So I mean, tomorrow's back page of the Star is going to reflect Carlos' contract and the situation around that. So, all of a sudden, he's taken all the pressure off the players, focused on himself, and they can go out and do what they have to do.
Yeah, and one question I put to him today came up with, he said, I hope to be here for 4 years, 6 years, even 10 years, And he's really that open-ended about it, which is great news, I think, for Sheffield Wednesday supporters.
Yeah.
They'll really appreciate that. But also, I think it reflects, one of his answers was about control, the control he has over which players come in. And whereas it was, he had a say at the beginning of his reign, and there was that blessed transfer committee, for want of a better description, in place. Now it's almost a total control, isn't it? Or the major say, what do you think?
I assume so. I mean, like you say, they had the committee before at the start of the season, which was, in my opinion, a bit of a nonsense, really, isn't it? It's what a great job that you can choose who to sign, and if it all goes wrong, it's not your responsibility, it's the manager's fault, so he gets a sack and you'll stay where you are. It was like the cushiest job in football, really. I'm glad they've done away with that, and I'm glad that Carlos Carvalhal has probably the majority of the say. And again, he's shown that with the players that he's brought in and the way that he's managed them and his man management skills. And you know, I think you've just got to take your hat off to him. He's done a really, really great job.
And to the chairman as well for learning from mistakes.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the transfer committee, the fact that he saw them all off, and it was almost a progression of Chansiri's trust in him. You know, the transfer committee sort of dropped bit by bit, and it was almost as if with every person that dropped out, it was almost as if it was a wee bit more trust given to Carlos, as if he was growing in confidence that Carlos could do the job that he was paying 4 or 5 people to do.
Absolutely. I would imagine as well, you know, when he came into the job and he was told there's this committee who are going to look at players and recommend players and decide on the players, it's probably a little bit of a smack in the face for you as a manager that trust element's not there, isn't it? And like you say, he's gradually seeing them off one by one, and I suppose his own determination to do that. I bet, you know, if you could have a real quiet word with him, you know, he may well admit that, you know, that was one of the things I wanted to do this year, was take the reins completely and prove my worth.
I mean, you'll know yourself, it was probably something that he was against at the time. But
Massively,
whenever you go for a job, you tend to accept things that you don't necessarily agree with, but you stick with it, and he's stuck with it and kicked them into touch, really.
He has, hasn't he? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, there were rumours, quite well founded, about a relationship breakdown with Glenn Roeder, who was a senior man on the committee. And I think it's quite significant that following that, Roeder was dropped off, and the committee then just completely fell apart. And Carlos has had his way on most things, and justifiably so. We'll talk about how we think Wembley will go in a moment. 10 released at Sheffield United, 7 on the list. In the second part as well, we'll talk about Dean Hammond. But any surprises for you among those 10 or those 7?
I think only Ryan Flynn could possibly be feeling a bit aggrieved. I think there's something in Ryan that he hasn't quite shown enough of, not shown enough of in the sense that of consistently, but we've seen it in bits and pieces where you think, you know, it just takes somebody to just drag that out of him and get him to play like that every single week.
I think there's a good attitude in there, in Ryan.
Yeah, and he's a
big game.
he's an honest, hard-working player.
Yeah,
sometimes he goes a bit missing in games, and sometimes just isn't quite as effective as he is capable of. So I think out of everybody, he would be the only one. Maybe Harrison McGay, because he's quite young, and you sort of get the impression that he's still learning.
Jose Baxter, in terms of ability, you'd keep all the time.
Oh,
but
of course.
It was somewhat fortuitous for Sheffield United that at the time of this latest failure of a drug test, he's out of contract, so they can just
it's easy just to get rid of. I mean, as you say, Jose Baxter on his day could be the best player in the division. He could be the best player in the championship if he put it in every single week. But you know, there are other issues there that are preventing him from doing that.
Lots of recruitment to come then this summer.
Yeah.
Have to be.
Well. There'll not be as need as he'll not need to bring in.
He won't be 17.
Yeah.
No.
He probably needs 6, I would say, somewhere around that.
Yeah.
He could do with a couple of centre halves, a hard-working midfielder, and perhaps.
And they've got one, Dean Hammond.
Well, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
don't take it too seriously. He is a hard worker, but
Yeah,
is he good enough?
no. Well, I think we all saw that he didn't quite cut it. Which is a shame, but
I believe he's a good character, and I don't think Nigel Atkins would have brought him if that hadn't been the case. And they've worked together at previous clubs and obviously worked successfully. Sometimes it didn't work at another club, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's at different levels and different players and different challenges, isn't there? And you know, it's not as easy as just putting round pegs in round holes, is it?
But it is in the studio, because we've got 3 round pegs in round holes, and they'll be back for the second half. James Gregg will be here too to round up everything else. Graham Needham, Jon Newsome, and Chris Holt. So in about 5 minutes' time, just take a breather, take a break. We'll be back talking about the big match at Wembley and plenty else. See you then.